If you're thinking about coming to Australia, then you're going to be thinking about things like the Opera House, the Harbour Bridge, or maybe even Neighbours, which doesn't really exist anymore. G'day guys, my name's Ross and I moved with my family to Australia during a global pandemic. Prior to moving to Australia, all we'd visited was the Harbour Bridge and Sydney and a little bit of Cairns. And the main reason that we ended up living in Brisbane was because we couldn't afford Sydney and we couldn't afford Melbourne. But before moving to Brisbane, we didn't really know what we were going to expect. So in true fashion, let's find out from a load of weirdos whether Brisbane is actually worth going to.
Brisbane, Australia. Located in southeast Queensland, it's a gateway to over 30 international destinations and is the third largest city in Australia.
Well, that's a good thing, because previously having London as our major hub for airports, I guess we were sport for choice for where we could go, and I never really thought about where we could go to if we lived in Brisbane. Looking at this map, we can see that most of the major connection hubs are there, so we don't really have to worry about wherever we want to go in the world, except for COVID. Middle East is there, so you can go wherever you want, and even get over to America, and let's face it, as long as Bali's on the map, what's there to worry about?
But it gets overlooked by a lot of tourists. So I'm going to the streets of Brisbane to find out if it's worth going to.
I think it's worth going to.
How long have you been in Brisbane for?
I've been living in Brisbane for about 16 years now.
16 years, so like your whole life, mate.
About 4 years now?
Almost 6 years.
5 years.
1 day.
1 day. One tourist there.
I've been here for 1 year.
Been here for 3 years.
For like 3-4 years now.
For 3-4 years as well.
For about 5 years now.
16 years, yeah.
And about 10 years.
2 years, mate.
Hello, my name's Ross and I've been in Brisbane for 18 months. This is like the worst Alcoholics Anonymous meeting ever.
And what's the best thing about it?
Best thing? It's very clean. It's probably the cleanest city I've been to. I'm from Perth originally. I've lived in London, absolute mess.
Lived in London, absolute mess. Like, no context, just mess. Genuinely coming from the UK and compared to all of the other places that I lived in the world, which is basically the UK, I have to agree, Brisbane is a really, really clean place. But that's the whole of Australia. People just actually use the bins that are there. Having lived here now for 18 months, I now think there is absolutely no excuse for anywhere else in the world not to just tidy up.
Brisbane's so clean. Council does a good job here.
They do.
I think the best thing is that there's so much to do, and it's always, everything's always open. It's got such good nightlife. And then there's a lot to do in the day as well, so it's just really fun.
Nothing specific, but just everything's really, really good fun. She seems like a happy-go-lucky kind of girl.
Oh, I love the atmosphere and the culture around the city.
Atmosphere and the culture. Now that's something you don't hear every day, considering loads of people are very quick to slag off Australia as a place without culture.
Best thing is public transport for sure.
The food and the shopping.
Well, I grew up in a town of like 10,000 people but had one McDonald's, so like having access to like real food's pretty good.
Is he claiming that McDonald's is real food? Or is he just really happy to be in a town that has a few more people?
I think there's like 3 or 4 McDonald's in this one.
Yeah,
Of course he has. And he's probably going to that next one.
Are there any bad things about Brisbane? What's the worst thing?
Worst thing? I can't really think of anything actually.
That's pretty good. Can't think of anything.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't have any many negatives about Brisbane, it's all pretty good.
I don't think his girlfriend can stop smiling, bless her.
People are a little bit rude here. It's the only thing, but the traffic.
I think if you're not used to Australian humour or the way that Aussies are, they're very open, they're very to the point. For some people that can be quite blunt. To be honest, I feel like I fit in here. I feel like one of the Aussies. It's a fantastic feeling to finally feel welcomed. But I can see how if you're not used to it, being told the truth can sometimes be a bit confronting. Some call it rude, some call it the way it is. You can't get around facts. And let's face it, in Australia, if someone acts like they don't like you, either they do like you, or they don't. You'll have to decide which one it is.
Just the traffic, I think. Like any major city though, traffic's always bad, but yeah, traffic just always banks up. But the public transport is pretty good here.
I agree with him, traffic can be really bad, and probably in parts of the city that I don't really go to very often. But coming from the UK and living just outside London, traffic was also really bad there. At least in Brisbane I can see that they're investing money in the infrastructure, both in roads and in public transport. So whilst it might be bad now, hopefully it won't be too bad in the future. In England, living around Reading for the last 10 years, the best they did was upgrade the M4 to a smart motorway. They didn't actually build another lane, they just got rid of the hard shoulder. And then before they'd even finished it, the government decided that it wasn't a good idea to build smart motorways because people died. Why would you invest in something where people are going to die? Well done, England. Well done.
The public transport is not ideal.
Literally polarised. Gone from one guy that loves public transport to public transport is not ideal. I trust the guy that's lived in Perth and London for the one that's vetting on public transport. Not the guy that lived in a town of 10,000 people and probably had never been in an Uber. Do you think that McDonald's is rotting his brain?
The traffic is so bad. Like, I actually hate it. And like the drivers, there's so many bad drivers here. Like, I'm probably one of them, but like it's so
I'm probably one of those bad
stressful.
drivers too.
Oh, the construction site.
And the humidity is pretty brutal.
Oh, yeah.
Hang on, construction sites. Old mate's pretty right. Humidity can be pretty brutal, particularly in summer.
A lot of people, when they plan their trips to Australia, they go to either Sydney or Melbourne.
They do.
And then maybe up north to the Great Barrier Reef.
That was like us, literally like us, minus the Melbourne.
For those people, is it worth going to Brisbane and why?
Oh, absolutely. Brisbane's better than Sydney, but not as good as Melbourne.
She's blatantly from Melbourne.
Definitely worth going to, because it's like a smaller, nicer, more welcoming Melbourne or Sydney.
And not if you're that one girl who's lived here for a year and she thinks everyone's rude. Coming from the UK where no one wanted to say hello to anyone and making eye contact was considered a taboo, I have to agree. South East Queensland is very friendly, apart from places that probably aren't very friendly.
Nice, relaxed. It's a lot more relaxed than Sydney and Melbourne. And
Love
it's not
the relaxed
as much,
attitude.
not as much of a hustle and bustle as well. So, yeah, it's just really cool, chill, and relaxed.
I'd have to agree. If you want to come to Australia for the relaxed lifestyle, Brisbane's got it down to a T.
If you want to do puzzles in your holiday, while you're coming for a holiday, you want to do puzzles and like crosswords, come to Brisbane.
Is that guy on crack? Puzzles. He doesn't look like he's completed a puzzle in his life.
A lot of tourist attractions.
Anything that makes it better than Sydney or Melbourne?
The vibes.
The vibes.
Yeah.
Mate, that kid has lived a lot of vibes in his life. He's just pure vibes. If you want to come to Brisbane, come here for the vibes. What even are the vibes? God, I'm getting too old for vibes.
It's got everything. There's always something going on. Last night you had 2 sporting events on the AFL. You had the rugby union on at Suncorp. It's very diverse with culture here as well. It's a very welcoming city. So if you're coming to Australia, you've got to check out Brisbane.
I think if you're coming to Brisbane and you're not used to Australian sports, the sheer volume of sports can be a little bit of a baptism of fire, particularly because you probably don't know any of the rules of them.
I think Brisbane is a very good hub where you can start all your trip and then you can travel out. Not far away, you can go up north to Noosa, Sunshine Coast, and further down south you can go to Byron Bay, which is very nice. So I think considering Brisbane as a first destination, I think it would be a good idea as well.
Come to Brisbane. It's a great place to go so you can go somewhere else. I agree with the guy from the point that there are lots of places that you can visit to outside of Brisbane. But if you're trying to explain why you should come to Brisbane, don't use the excuse of because you can go somewhere else.
For anyone now just sort of on the fence about coming to Brisbane, do you have a quick message for them?
Come to Brisbane. It's a really great place and the people are very friendly.
Mate, that's the next tourism advert there. Come to Brisbane. Kind of okay. She does not look like a happy tourist.
Hop off the fence and come.
Don't go to
Hop
the
off the
overcrowded places like Sydney or Melbourne because Brisbane has a lot of beautiful things to offer.
I disagree with that. I think you should go to Sydney. I think you should go to Melbourne. And then when you come to Brisbane, you'll realise that you probably shouldn't have gone.
It's a gateway to the world, Brisbane. You come into Australia, you can jump on the next flight over to the States. You've got to see Brisbane, though, when you come to Australia.
Wow, I want to go to Brisbane.
Yeah, you got to go.
I'm here.
You're here. Come to Brisbane, everyone watching.
Mate, I can hardly hear this guy. He's like waving the microphone at the cameraman who I can hear more clearly. He's so excited about Brisbane that he forgets what the thing in his hand is actually for. And don't get me wrong, he's living his best life. But don't get him too excited, you know, he might forget who he is. All these people are absolutely right. Brisbane is a fantastic place to come visit, and if you've never been here before, it's definitely a place that's overlooked and probably undervalued. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to give us a like. If you want to see what our life in Brisbane is like and visiting the surrounding places, because we can, then make sure to check out our channel. And if you want to see what Brisbane is like when we had a day out, then check out that video there. See you later.